My mother had a malignant tumor, and my wife of 10 years, a CEO, believed I married her solely for the experimental drug her company produced. She kept a male model on the side and kissed her first love right in front of me. I pretended not to see any of it, enduring every humiliation. That all changed when she cut off my mother's medication for 2 months. When I went to beg her, her words were ice cold. You want to save your mother? Fine. Beat Leo in a street race, and I'll give you the medicine. I have a severe heart condition. The slightest shock could trigger cardiac arrest. She knew this perfectly well, yet she still pushed me to do something so dangerous. To save my mother, I raced, and Leo ran my car off a cliff. I was thrown from the car, my head bleeding and my arm shattered. When I painstakingly dragged myself back to the roadside, I was met with her look of pure disgust. Don't think acting pathetic will make me feel sorry for you, she sneered. Wouldn't it be better if your mother just died? This is the debt you and your mother owe me. With that, she left with her first love, abandoning me on that deserted road to die. Someone found me, and I was taken to the hospital, where I woke up from a coma a month later. I discovered that my mother, deprived of her medication, had died in our home. Her body had already begun to decompose. This time, all hope had finally died within me. I calmly called Sarah. Let's get a divorce, I said. My debt to you is paid in full. All I could hear from the other end of the line were the sounds of Sarah and Leo together. She didn't seem to hear what I said, and after an impatient click of her tongue, she hung up. I let my hand fall to my side, standing frozen before my mother's decaying body. It felt as if every ounce of strength had been drained from me. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed with a flood of iMessages from Leo. I opened them to find videos of him and Sarah in bed together that night. The intimate sounds filled the silence as I played one of the videos. I could hear Leo laughing as he asked Sarah, "Are you really not going to give him the medicine?" Sarah's voice was casual, dismissive. She won't die right away just for missing a few doses. Daniel and his damn mother are just using this sob story to get my attention. Let's see how long they can keep up the act. Their laughter echoed from the phone, threatening to shatter what was left of my sanity. When I had been brought to the hospital, the infection in my shattered arm was so bad, I almost lost it. After waking from the coma, the doctors delivered more news. I had leukemia. And during that entire month, Sarah hadn't given my mother the medicine, nor had she bothered to visit me even once. A crushing wave of helplessness washed over me. I only snapped out of it when the police and paramedics arrived. Time of death appears to be about a month ago, the medical examiner said. The deceased died from starvation, compounded by the torment of her illness. You should go get the death certificate processed. Hearing his words, my eyes burned, and I bowed my head as tears fell silently to the floor. I had spent every last penny of my savings trying to treat my mother's illness. Sarah's sudden appearance in my life had felt like a miracle. She covered all the medical bills and gave my mother access to the newest experimental drug from Vance Pharmaceuticals. When her family pressured her to marry, I offered to be the one to marry into the Vance family. To repay her kindness, I was completely subservient, doing everything she asked of me. I diligently played the part of the perfect, devoted husband. Just as I was beginning to believe Sarah and I could have a life together, the male model she was seeing showed up at our house, demanding that I step aside. The shock of it was too much for my mother. She suffered a relapse and became bedridden. But Sarah didn't stop. Instead, she began an affair with her first love, Leo, who had just moved back to Chicago. When I finally couldn't take it anymore and confronted her, she just scoffed. Everything you've done, wasn't it all just to get medicine for your mother? She threw a stack of photos in my face, her voice dripping with venom. My mother died on that operating table, and your mother was the surgeon in charge. Did you really think I wanted to marry you? Every second I have to spend near you makes me sick to my stomach. Your mother killed mine. I'm going to make you both pay with your lives. Sarah hated me, so she relentlessly pushed my boundaries. And because I felt a shadow of guilt, I let her. I let her trample all over my dignity. And what did I get for it in the end? Nothing. Worse than nothing, it cost me the only family I had left in the world. I knew Sarah wouldn't answer my calls. This had to be handled in person. I had a courier deliver the divorce papers to Leo's apartment. I was certain she would be there. Sure enough, moments after the delivery confirmation came through, my phone rang. It was her. What the hell is this divorce agreement? Have you decided you don't want your mother's medicine anymore? It was the only threat she ever needed. She was convinced that as long as my mother needed the drug, I would never leave her, and she could do as she pleased. I looked down at the death certificate in my hand, my voice raspy. I don't need it anymore. I don't need any of it. The complete lack of emotion in my voice seemed to surprise her. But her surprise quickly turned to a mocking laugh. Daniel, did you hit your head when you went off that cliff? It's only been a few days and you've suddenly grown a backbone? Decided to just give up on everything? A bitter, self-deprecating smile touched my lips. My mother was dead. I would never need Sarah's medicine again. She had no more power over me. When I remained silent, Sarah softened her tone. Look, it's just the medicine, right? I'll bring it to you. Wait for me to come home tonight. Her tone was like she was bestowing charity. Then she hung up. She didn't get home until after midnight. The moment she walked in, I was hit by the heavy smell of liquor and another man's cologne. She saw me sitting in the living room, but didn't say a word of greeting, simply slumping onto the couch across from me. As Sarah tilted her head back, I could clearly see the marks Leo had left on her neck. I thought you'd be stuck in that hospital forever. I'm surprised you got out so soon. Her tone was as sarcastic as ever. She glanced at my still bandaged arm, then tossed a paper bag onto the coffee table. This month's supply. I stared at the bag, my face a blank mask, and said nothing. Seeing my lack of reaction, Sarah's brow furrowed in annoyance. What is it you want? I pushed the bag back towards her. I don't need it. Take it. I won't be needing it anymore. Sarah froze, blinking her long lashes, clearly not expecting me to say that. After all, I had been willing to give up my dignity, even my life, to save my mother. But she quickly recovered, a cold sneer forming on her lips. Daniel, there's no need to play these little games with me. I told you, your mother killed mine. You will never have a moment of peace in this life. Her eyes were bloodshot, the hatred in them raw and undisguised. I sighed, feeling an immense weariness. Since you hate me so much, let's just get a divorce. That way you won't have to be annoyed by the sight of me anymore. I meant every word. My mother was gone, and I had been diagnosed with terminal leukemia. I had nothing left to hold on to. It was better to make a clean break than to continue this endless, painful entanglement with Sarah. Does your mother know you're saying this? She was always hoping we'd work things out, hoping she'd get to hold a grandchild before she died. Sarah completely dismissed my words, her gaze shifting to my mother's closed bedroom door. A small, cruel smile played on her lips. Your mother's health is so fragile. If you make a scene about divorce, aren't you afraid the shock will kill her? My mother had always treated Sarah like her own daughter, which was why she could never accept the fact that Sarah had been unfaithful. She used to tell me to be kinder to Sarah, to make it up to her. She blamed herself, her own perceived failure, for not being able to save Sarah's mother. That's why no matter how cruel Sarah became, my mother never said a word against her. I looked at her, so confident in her power over me. The hand at my side clenched and unclenched weakly. Suddenly, it felt like everything I had done for all these years had been utterly worthless. Seeing my stunned silence, Sarah snorted. She threw the divorce papers I'd sent onto the table in front of me. My signature was on the dotted line, but the space for hers remained defiantly blank. This divorce business, I'm just going to pretend it never happened, she said. I'll have someone prepare the medicine for the next few months, so don't you dare call me heartless. Just as Sarah was about to say more, her phone buzzed. Leo's panicked voice came through the speaker. Sarah, you need to check Twitter right now. Someone posted our pictures. Sarah's face instantly darkened as she frantically scrolled through her phone. She shot to her feet and slapped me hard across the face. Her eyes were wide and bloodshot. Daniel, I never knew you were so conniving. Did you really post those pictures online just to threaten me? The slap left my head spinning. When my vision cleared, I saw the video trending at the top of Twitter. It was one of the videos Leo had sent to my phone, showing him and Sarah in bed. I gritted my teeth. You should ask Leo about that, I said, my voice filled with resentment. It has nothing to do with me. But it didn't matter what I said. Sarah never believed me. If it wasn't you, then who is it? You think Leo posted it himself? She spat. Daniel, when did you install a camera in our bedroom? Do you get off on watching me with other men? Every word she spoke was a knife twisting in my chest. I drew a shaky breath, wanting to argue, but I remained silent. To protect Leo's reputation, Sarah demanded I issue a public apology to the media. I closed my eyes and agreed, my voice flat. Fine, just tell me when and where. My detached compliance seemed to infuriate her even more, leaving her with no outlet for her rage. She snorted, then threw the bag of medicine, slamming it against my mother's closed bedroom door. So pathetic, she muttered, before storming out and slamming the front door behind her. My cheek was still throbbing. I carefully smoothed the creases from the death certificate and laid it on the table. Mom, I whispered, I'm taking you home. Back to Wisconsin, to be with Dad. You always wanted to go back. This way, you're finally free. I booked a flight home. My father's ashes were buried there, and I didn't want my mother to be alone. The very next day, Sarah's assistant called to summon me to the press conference. I went to her office at Vance Pharmaceuticals as instructed. As I approached her office, I could hear the rustling of clothes from inside her private lounge. I could also hear Sarah and Leo laughing and fooling around. In the past, I would have lost control, burst in, and demanded to know why she was doing this to me. But now I just stood quietly outside the door and waited for them to finish. After a long wait, Sarah emerged, straightening her blouse, with Leo trailing behind her. She froze for a second when she saw me, then awkwardly tugged at her collar, trying to hide the fresh marks on her neck. The reporters she had arranged were already setting up for the live broadcast. Her expression quickly returned to one of cool composure. She shot me a look and said in a low, cold voice, "Daniel, you'd better understand the position you're in. Your mother's life is still in my hands. If you don't want her to die, you will do exactly as you're told in front of those cameras." Beside her, Leo gave me a smug, triumphant smile and intertwined his fingers with hers. "Sarah, don't be upset," Leo said softly. "I'll be fine. It's your reputation I'm worried about." "I don't care about any of that," Sarah cut him off, and her words sent a tremor through my heart. I knew her better than anyone. She was proud and fiercely protective of her image. But when it came to Leo, it was as if she had no principles at all. At the press conference, a wall of microphones and cameras was shoved in my face. I calmly recited the scripted answers, taking the blame for things I hadn't done. Then, a reporter went off script. "Mr. Miller, we have a source saying you were recently diagnosed with leukemia and may have less than a month to live. Is that true? And if that's the case, would you give Ms. Vance and Mr. Thompson your blessing to be together after you're gone?" My pale, gaunt face was broadcast on every screen. I wasn't surprised by the question. As Sarah Vance's husband, it was normal to have paparazzi following me. I didn't deny the diagnosis. I just offered a faint smile. Yes, I would. I would wish them nothing but happiness. I don't know what I said that set her off. A flicker of something disturbed Sarah's calm expression as she shot to her feet, abruptly ending the live broadcast. She turned to me, her voice a harsh whisper. "What's this about leukemia?" I didn't approve that question. "Did you plant that reporter?" Before I could answer, Leo put on a wounded expression and tugged at her sleeve. "Sarah, look at Twitter. They're all attacking me," he whined. "They're calling me a homewrecker, but I was in your life first." Because the press conference had been live, a torrent of public opinion was already forming online. People were calling Leo a shameless mistress, a gold digger who preyed on a married woman. The more Sarah read, the darker her expression grew. She completely forgot about the reporter's question about my health and grabbed my injured arm, squeezing hard. The wound, not yet fully healed, tore open, and blood dripped onto the polished floor. "How could you be so vile, Daniel? You know Leo is innocent, yet you paid off reporters and trolls to smear his name. Are you trying to destroy him?" She put all her strength into it, tightening her grip on my wrist until I heard a sickening crack. The pain was so intense my vision went black, and a metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. Leo quickly pulled Sarah away, putting on a show of magnanimity. "Sarah, it's okay. I'm sure Daniel wouldn't do something like this." He then turned to me, his expression a mask of pity. "I don't know what I did to offend you, Daniel," he said, "but your marriage to Sarah is over. You can't make her happy, so why are you trying to stand in our way?" I stumbled back a few steps, my entire right arm numb and useless. My voice was ice. "I'm not standing in your way. Not now, not ever." With that, I turned to leave. I could hear Sarah shouting after me. "Daniel, I'll give you one chance. Get on your knees and apologize to Leo, and I'll pretend this never happened." I didn't break my stride. Her voice grew more frantic. "Daniel, did you hear me? 10 years of love and pain." In that moment, I finally let it all go. I stood outside the Vance Pharmaceuticals building for a long time, letting the cold Chicago wind whip around me. Then, I called my lawyer. "Please forward my medical records and my mother's death certificate to Sarah Vance. And tell her this, the debt is paid. With 2 lives." The next call I got from Sarah was 3 days later. It seemed my lawyer's message had sent her into a rage. The moment I answered, her shrill voice assaulted my ear. "Daniel, what the hell are you trying to pull? What was that message you had your lawyer send me? Do you think some forged medical records and a fake death certificate are going to make me feel sorry for you? The more you pull these stunts, the more pathetic you seem. Where are you? Get back here right now. I had expected this reaction. I lower my gaze, my voice quiet. Nothing is forged. The diagnosis is real. And my mother is really dead. She died because she didn't have her medicine. She was alone in that house for a month, and I never even got to say goodbye. I have terminal leukemia. The diagnosis was made at Northwestern Memorial. You can send someone to verify it if you don't believe me. All I want now is a divorce. My words seemed to stun her into silence. For a long moment, all I could hear was her ragged breathing. What are you talking about? That's impossible. Daniel, you get back here right now. How do I know you're not just lying to me? I hung up before she could finish. Sarah was resourceful. It was better to let her find out the truth for herself than to try and convince her. I took my mother's ashes and drove home to Wisconsin. The yard at the old house was overgrown with weeds. My mother and I hadn't been back in over a decade, not since my father passed away. I remember the day we left. My mother had been smiling, telling my father's photograph how I'd married a wonderful woman and how our new daughter-in-law was taking her to the city to live a life of comfort. Everything was so full of hope then. But now I had returned with my mother as a jar of ashes, and I myself had been diagnosed with leukemia. With my own hands, I dug a place for her next to my father's grave, burying them together. It won't be long before our family is reunited. The hospital had sent 3 reminders for a follow-up appointment, all of which I ignored. My lawyer also messaged me to say that Sarah was refusing to sign the divorce papers. She wanted to see me. I wasn't surprised, all because her mother had died on my mother's operating table. In her mind, that made us murderers. She projected all of that blame onto me and my mother. She used our marriage as a pretense to torture me in every way imaginable. I had endured it for years, but I was tired. I sighed and forwarded the evidence of Sarah's affairs to my lawyer. If she wouldn't agree to this peacefully, I would have to take her to court. I just didn't know if I would live long enough to see it through. The local elementary school was short on teachers, so I volunteered to teach English. My time was short, and I didn't want to spend it doing nothing. After I had been in town for about a week, Sarah found me. She must have asked around. She burst through the door of my small office at the school. Her steps hurried. She slammed my medical records and my mother's death certificate down on my desk. If I hadn't checked the security footage from our building, I never would have known you'd packed a bag and come back here. Didn't I tell you that you were never to return to this place after you married me? She was breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling rapidly. I ignored her. It was time for class to start, and I had no energy to argue with her. My indifference only made her more agitated. She grabbed my arm, her voice rising. "Are you listening to me?" I glanced at her, my expression impassive. "This is my home. Why wouldn't I be able to come back? If you're only here to yell at me, you can leave. I have a class to teach." Sarah pressed her lips together and took a deep breath. "Fine. I'll wait until you're done." It was the first time in a very long time that Sarah had ever backed down. Normally, she would have escalated the fight until the roof came down. By the time I finished my work for the day, the sun had already set. Sarah had always despised this town, calling it a backwater hellhole. I was sure that every minute she spent here was torture for her, and I fully expected her to have given up and left. But she was still there, waiting outside my office door. When she saw me, she quickly stood and rushed to my side. "Daniel, you still haven't told me what happened. Is your mother really dead?" I stopped walking and turned to face her, a cold smile on my face. "My mother is dead. Shouldn't you be the happiest person in the world? The woman you blame for your mother's death has gotten her comeuppance. She's gone. Are you satisfied now?" Sarah stared at me, stunned, as if she couldn't believe I was speaking to her this way. Her expression soured, but she pressed on. "And the leukemia? How could I not know you were sick? You always thought I was faking it, remember?" I set down my books and met her gaze directly. Whatever Sarah had been about to say died on her lips when she got a good look at my pale, drawn face. She frowned, a flicker of annoyance crossing her features as she tried to regain control of the conversation. "How do I know if any of this is real? You think a piece of paper from a hospital and a death certificate are enough to make me believe you? And you want a divorce? I'm telling you right now, you will never be free of me." Her voice was shrill and grating. It was easier for her to believe this was all an elaborate ploy for sympathy than to accept that I was actually sick. I turned my head away, no longer looking at her. It took me 10 years to fall in love and one day to let it all go. A marriage of convenience was never meant to be blessed. Sarah's eyes were filled with confusion. What are you so angry about? You're the one who agreed to the race. It was your own fault you weren't good enough and went off the road. Besides, I gave you the medicine in the end, didn't I? Why are you still acting like this? A sarcastic smile touched my lips. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe Leo ran me off the road on purpose? Then again, you've always trusted him more than me. My expression remained neutral as I looked away from her and started walking. But Sarah was relentless, following close behind me. She followed me all the way back to my parents' house. When I opened the door, the first thing she saw was the memorial photograph of my mother and father on the mantelpiece. The stream of angry words she'd been spewing died in her throat. She stared at the black and white photo of my mother, her face a mixture of shock and disbelief. "She's dead?" she whispered. "Your mother's really dead?" Sarah still couldn't seem to process it, muttering to herself. She bit her thumbnail, then whipped her head around to face me. It was only 2 months without the medicine. How could she have died? Just 2 months. For a fleeting moment, her eyes turned red, and her voice trembled as she continued to question me. Seeing her reaction, I let out a bitter, sarcastic laugh. "Sarah, are you feeling guilty? Is it because you know you killed her?" Her face went white as a sheet. "That's right, just 2 months. How could someone die without their medicine in just 2 months? But did you know that after I went off that cliff, I was in a coma for a month? During that entire month, did you ever once go to check on my mother? She couldn't take care of herself. Did you ever once think to arrange for someone to look after her?" With every word I spoke, the resentment I felt for her deepened. Even now, I can't erase the image of that decaying body on the floor. Sarah looked lost, biting her lip as she instinctively tried to defend herself. "It had nothing to do with me," she snapped. "It was your mother's health. She was going to die anyway. It's better this way. She paid the price for what she did to my mother. I did nothing wrong." She kept deflecting, using her own mother's death as an excuse for everything. I lowered my eyes and pulled a file from a drawer. It was the medical chart for Sarah's mother, which my own mother had kept. My voice was glacial. "Sarah, you always knew. You knew the survival rate for your mother's surgery was almost 0. You've just been lying to yourself all these years. Doctors aren't gods. They can't bring people back from the dead. For 10 years, you've tortured my mother and me, blaming us for something that was no one's fault. Now, my mother is dead. I don't have much time left. Isn't that enough? Isn't 2 lies enough to settle the score?" Sarah's eyes darted away, unable to meet the gaze of my mother in the photograph. She took a few steps back, then turned and fled, her retreat hasty and panicked. Watching her go, I slowly exhaled. I looked down at my own hands, which had grown thin and frail. Without medicine, without treatment, I knew I didn't have much time left. After I called her out, it was as if Sarah couldn't face me. She didn't come to see me for several days. If the town mayor hadn't mentioned that her car was still parked at the edge of town, I would have assumed she'd gone back to Chicago. During that time, my condition worsened significantly. I could taste blood in the back of my throat when I was teaching, and one day, I collapsed coughing up blood in the middle of a lesson. When Sarah heard about it, she came rushing back to the house. Without a word of preamble, she tried to get me to leave with her. "You can't delay treatment. This town doesn't have the medical facilities you need. I've researched your condition. With the right treatment, you could live for several more years." I slapped her hand away, a cold sneer on my face. "Live a few more years? So you can continue to torture me? My mother is dead now. What new leverage have you come up with to control me? I'm not going back with you. Sign the divorce papers, and let's be done with this. Otherwise, I won't be able to rest in peace." My words made the color drain from her face. She looked at my skeletal frame, her eyes welling up with tears. "Why are you being so stubborn? I'm not divorcing you. You're only 32 years old. How can you just give up on your life like this?" Her sudden change in attitude was so jarring I didn't know how to react. "Why are you crying?" I asked quietly. "You hate my guts. You should be happy that I'm dying." Sarah wiped her eyes, her voice becoming soft, almost pleading. "You're so young. It's not hopeless. Please come back with me. I've had a lot of time to think these past few days. Our parents' history, it's not our burden to carry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Let's just focus on getting you better, and we can pretend none of the past ever happened, okay?" When my mother was alive, Sarah had hated her, openly mocking her time and again. She knew that the thing my mother cared about most in the world was our marriage. And yet, Sarah had flaunted her affairs right in front of her, the shock of which had sent my mother into a decline from which she never recovered. And now that my mother was gone, Sarah wanted to pretend it had all been a bad dream. Pretend it never happened? Fine. If you can bring my mother back from the dead, I'll agree to your terms." Sarah's lips trembled, but she couldn't form a response. I was sick of it. I pressed her again. "Don't worry. As long as we're still married, I'll keep breathing. I won't die." But she was relentless, grabbing my arm again. "Come back with me now. We'll find a way. There has to be a way. I'll find the best doctors in the country for you. I swear it," she pleaded. "Once you're better, you can do whatever you want. I won't stop you." I pulled my arm from her grasp. "I have no intention of getting treated," I said, my voice firm. My mother was dead. She had no more leverage. I no longer had to crawl to her like a dog, begging for scraps of dignity. During that press conference, the reporter asked if I would give you and Leo my blessing after I died. I meant what I said. I won't stand in your way. I never have. I'm not now, and I never will. Stop talking like that. Sarah was getting desperate, her eyes red as she gripped my hand tightly. She quickly pulled out her phone and held it in front of my face. Right there, she deleted Leo from her contacts, her call history, everything. "Please, just accept that I was wrong, okay? Look, I've deleted him. He's gone. I never planned on being with him. It was just a game. We're the ones who are married. We're husband and wife. See? He's gone." For the first time, I saw genuine fear in Sarah's eyes. I didn't know what she was afraid of, but it didn't matter. Nothing she did now could fix what was broken. Even after I rejected her apologies time and time again, she didn't give up. She rented a room in town and started a fund to sponsor the local students. She even had a truckload of new medical equipment delivered to the small clinic. "If you don't want to come back with me, that's fine," she told me. "I'll have a doctor's come here." Every day after my last class, I would find Sarah waiting for me in my office. Before long, everyone in town knew who she was. They'd tell me how lucky I was to have such a devoted wife. I would just offer a weak smile in response. They had no idea of the pain she had caused me, and I no longer had the strength to explain. "Daniel," she said one afternoon, "I found your mother's grave. I brought her some of her favorite flowers. I said hello to your father, too, just in case he didn't know who I was. For them, for our parents, can we please just focus on getting you better? Can we not get a divorce?" She was a constant presence, chattering away at my side. I never responded. One day, while she was in the middle of an excited monologue, Leo showed up. He barged into the house, glanced around the small living room with disdain, and fixed his eyes on Sarah. Leo's eyes lit up, and he put on a wounded expression. "Sarah, why did you block my number? You've been gone for weeks. I've been looking for you everywhere. Did Daniel say something to you? Do you have any idea how worried I've been?" He noticed me then, and his expression turned sinister. "Daniel, can you stop dragging Sarah into your family drama? She's just a woman. She can't handle this." Sarah wasn't a fool. She knew exactly what Leo was capable of and what he had done behind her back. In the past, she simply hadn't cared. But now, looking at him, her eyes were filled with pure annoyance. "What are you doing here? I told you we're done. Get out." Leo's face froze in disbelief. "Sarah, what are you talking about? You're telling me to get out? Don't play dumb with me. I had it investigated. You ran Daniel off that road on purpose." Sarah's full attention was on me now. She didn't even spare Leo a glance. The color drained from Leo's face. His voice dropped to a whisper. You were always saying how Daniel and his dying mother were holding you back. I just thought. I couldn't believe it. Leo had actually wanted me dead." "Sarah, you can see for yourself," he said, gesturing at me. "He's terminally ill. He's going to be dead soon. Just leave him." That sentence seemed to be the final straw for Sarah. She slapped Leo hard across the face. "Get out," she screamed. "Get out, or I swear I will have my lawyers sue you for attempted murder." A red handprint immediately appeared on Leo's cheek. He clearly hadn't expected her to get physical. His mask of concern shattered, replaced by a look of pure malice as he glared at her. "You hit me? You hit me for a dead man walking." He grabbed a nearby wooden chair and smashed it on the floor. I couldn't stay silent any longer. "This isn't the place for this. If you don't leave now, I'm calling the police," I said, my voice shaking with anger. Leo ignored me, his eyes fixed on me with a look of pure hatred. "Who the hell do you think you are? You don't get to talk." I pulled out my phone to dial 911, but Leo lunged at me, shoving me hard. I fell backwards, the back of my head cracking against the sharp corner of a table. My vision instantly went red. "Daniel," was the last thing I heard, Sarah's voice filled with panic before I blacked out. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. I later learned that Leo had been arrested. Sarah was sitting by my bedside. She had dark circles under her eyes and looked utterly exhausted. Being back in the hospital meant the doctors knew my condition had taken a turn for the worse. She held my hand, her tears falling onto my skin. We can beat this, she choked out between sobs. You have to believe me. If the doctors here can't help, we'll go abroad. I've already found a specialist. He's seen your file. He said with the right treatment, we could buy more time. I knew she was just trying to comfort me. I knew my own body better than anyone. From the day I was diagnosed, I hadn't received any treatment. I had just let the disease run its course. Even if it had been treatable before, it was too late now. Ever since my mother died, I had lost all desire to live. I had even started counting down the days. But I couldn't let myself die. Not until I had the signed divorce papers in my hand. Sarah insisted I stay in the hospital. She was there every day, leaving early and coming back late, constantly on the phone. But the worry lines on her forehead deepened each day, and her eyes were always red-rimmed when she looked at me. It was as if she was trying to atone for 10 years of cruelty in a matter of weeks. She fussed over me constantly, doing everything herself. In the past, I would have been moved to tears by her attentiveness, but not anymore. Now, everything she did felt like a pointless exercise. One day, as she was straightening my sheets, I spoke quietly. You don't have to do this. If you really want me to die without any regrets, then come with me to finalize the divorce. I told you I would wait, but my body doesn't always listen to me anymore. Sarah's hands froze. She turned to look at me, forcing a smile. Don't talk nonsense. You're not going to die that easily. After that conversation, her efforts became even more frantic. She consulted with doctors all over the world. A lifelong atheist, she even knelt outside a church for a full day and night, praying. But none of it worked. My body was failing. The doctors had issued several critical condition notices. Sarah stayed by my side, begging me. When you get better, we can have another wedding. A real one this time. Please forgive me. I wasted 10 years of your life. Let me spend the rest of mine making it up to you. Her persistence was exhausting. I promise, I said, my voice weak. As long as you sign the divorce papers, I'll go abroad for the treatment. She believed me. At this point, she would have done anything to get me to agree to treatment. She signed the papers without a moment's hesitation and immediately booked the first available flight. I stared at our 2 signatures on the final decree. I let out a small sigh. Sarah, however, was giddy with relief, smiling for the first time in days. I turned my head on the pillow, waiting a moment before I spoke. When I go abroad this time, I might not come back. My mother always regretted that we never took a proper wedding photo. Let's take one now, as a final wish for her. Sarah nodded eagerly. Yes, of course. I'll go find you a suit. We can have a photographer here this afternoon. You don't need to find one, I interrupted. The suit I wore at our wedding. Do you remember it? Let's use that one. I told her to go home and get her wedding dress and my suit. I would wait for her at the hospital. The doctors were on standby if anything happened. At first, she refused, insisting on staying with me. But when she met my gaze, she couldn't argue anymore. Her voice was thick with tears. You have to wait for me to get back. The flight is booked for tonight. You promised me, Daniel. You have to wait. She was still crying as she walked out the door. The moment she was gone, I stumbled to the bathroom and collapsed, vomiting blood onto the cold tile floor. I heaved until the world spun, my life with Sarah flashing before my eyes. It was a marriage built on calculation and pain, and I had been a fool to ever think it was anything more. I hated her, but I couldn't. If it hadn't been for her, my mother would have died 10 years sooner. Maybe that's why my mother always urged me to be good to Sarah, no matter what. But I was so tired. The cost of loving Sarah Vance was too high, and I couldn't pay it anymore. I pressed the nurse's call button. By the time the doctors rushed in, I had collapsed on the floor with no strength left. A doctor frantically dialed Sarah's number and put on speaker. Her sobbing voice filled the room. Daniel, you lied to me. You burned that suit years ago. You said you'd wait for me. We were supposed to go abroad for treatment. Daniel, please don't do this. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Her voice, full of regret, mingled with the urgent calls of the doctors. But I was so tired. I didn't want to wake up again. Sarah's heart-wrenching sobs grew fainter and fainter. The last thing I heard her say was that she hoped she would meet me in the next life. But I never wanted to see her again.